Thank you, Immad, for joining.
Thanks for having me. How's everyone doing?
And hopefully, I know, having wired money to several of the founders in the room, there are many. There are more than a couple of Mercury customers here, including a fairly new one, only two weeks vintage. But when Ryan and Ty and Cam mentioned that they were going to go Restive again this year, and asked who I thought should kick it off. From my perspective, there is no one better in the industry than you. You occupy a unique space. You are a serial entrepreneur. You have founded a business that provides banking services to thousands and thousands of startups. And you are yourself a prolific seed investor. And I think speaking to a room of people who are somewhere on that journey or connect as investors, to hear from the person who sort of sits at the white-hot center of the venture capital landscape is just an amazing privilege. So thank you. You and I have known each other for 10 years. I think that's when, the small little check Kate and I wrote wended its way to Mercury. But your journey as a founder and in the Bay Area goes back another decade. I think this is your third startup.
Fourth.
Oh, it is your fourth.
Yeah.
Okay. You came to the Bay Area, though, in 2007, having gone to Cambridge, the actual Cambridge, not the one in Massachusetts.
I went to both, actually.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I did Y Combinator in 2007, and I did spend 3 months in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Well, so walk us through that journey. Thinking back to coming here in 2007, very different world.
I did my first startup in 2006. When I tell people I did 4 startups, it just means I failed a lot. It doesn't mean that that's like success. But I did one startup in London, which is kind of like a Yelp thing. And that didn't work out, but I really got addicted to like running my own company. And I got really, even though it had, all of this kind of tribulations of failure, it was still like the best thing I'd ever done. And I decided I had to move to San Francisco to kind of pursue it to its fullest, especially in 2006. The London ecosystem was very, very nascent. And I'm happy I made that choice. And so I moved here, did another startup that did a talent acquisition. And then my third startup was the one I did for a really long time. That went on from 2009 to 2016. And we had some success there. We sold it for $45 million. And then I started Mercury in 2017.
You have said that one of the traps of investing is that a good founder can sell a bad idea. And having written checks to good founders whose ideas didn't work, I can certainly validate. You spent a lot of time exploring the idea that has sort of grown into Mercury. How did you know that it was the right thing?
I think when you do a startup, there's like some self-delusion you have to have as an entrepreneur. You have to hold these 2 things to be true that this, especially when you're pitching investors and stuff, you're like, this thing could be huge and this could be like $100 billion company or whatever. But at the same time, it's like you haven't written a line of code and you don't have any customers. So even my previous companies, I really, had this kind of delusion that I was like, oh my God, this could be huge. Here's how we could build the biggest kind of social network for gaming, which is what I did briefly in my previous company as well. What really stuck with Mercury was, number one, it was a problem that I faced and I really was very close to. And I really thought, as an entrepreneur, I was just so sick of kind of these banking services, and I really thought something better could be built here. So that was one powerful aspect. And then number 2 it really stuck with me for a long time as an idea. So I originally had this idea in 2013. You know, as an entrepreneur, I'm always like seeing problems, and it wasn't necessarily, my original view wasn't, I'm going to solve this idea. It was more like, someone needs to fix banking. It's just so bad. But it was an idea at the back of my mind that had like stuck with me, and no one else had solved it. And over time, when you kind of ruminate for a long time on the idea, you get like more kind of ways of looking at it. So one part of that idea was banking could do a lot more. So I really wanted to build a company that would get more interesting over time. I feel like most companies kind of get boring over time. Like you launch that product, it's successful, and then you just build a bigger sales team, or you continue kind of incrementing. One thing that was exciting to me about Mercury is there had been no innovation in banking. So, all the software tools you could build around banking, at this stage, we've kind of done some of that, right? It's not just a bank account. We also have credit card and spend management and invoicing and bill pay, and it's all integrated into banking, and we're doing a lot more this year. But yeah, the potential, at least starting from the bank account, felt endless to me, and that got me really excited about the idea.
Well, and the bridge between sort of business banking and personal banking.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even come up with that when I started, but now we've done that as well.
So part of the journey that fascinates me is you decide to do this. It's like roughly 2016, 2017. We're in a world where there have been no new bank charters for a decade. And before writing code, you go talk to a bunch of folks.
Yeah.
What motivated that, and what did you take out of those conversations that sort of informed how you decided to build the business?
Yeah, so after I sold that company, I finished my earnout, and then 2017 I was supposed to take the year off. So I was supposed to be on the sabbatical, but this was kind of my top idea, and I can't really sit still. So I started like kind of investigating the idea, and over time got like more and more convicted on it. I realized that when you think about building something, you have to convince yourself, and then you have to obviously convince other investors if you're raising that you can do that, like you can build this thing. And I kind of figured that most people would believe I could build the product and probably figure out distribution. I think the thing that I didn't believe myself, and that most people wouldn't believe, is that I could figure out all the banking regulation, kind of the risk compliance side of things. So I spent all my time kind of thinking and working on that. And I talked to 90 plus people. I like wrote everything down. And just everyone I talked to, I'd be like, oh, who else should I talk to? And as I was talking to people, I was trying to figure out, okay, how do other people think about this? How has this been approached before? What are things I need to worry about? So I talked to a bunch of fintech entrepreneurs, fintech investors, fintech lawyers, people who work at MasterCard, people who worked at kind of European neobanks. So I had like a pretty large net initially, and then as I understood things better, like I remember after the first month, I was like, I don't know anything, right? Like someone would say like BSA or ACH, and I'd be like, there's so many acronyms in this space, and I would be like very lost. But over time, you kind of learn as people talk about things, and do your own research. And generally speaking, entrepreneurs are like really good resources, because most entrepreneurs have also been through this like kind of not knowing anything to like now I know something journey. So a lot of fintech entrepreneurs were useful. And then actually lawyers were pretty useful. I think that's probably how we connected.
Met.
When it came to like kind of deeper questions of, right, how does a fintech bank sponsor relationship work? I did spend even then a long time trying to figure out like, oh, if I wanted to get a bank charter, what would I have to do, and is this the right route to go down? So those are probably like some of the conversations we had. But I mean, one thing that's funny, and it kind of relates to AI as well, even in 2017, like I felt like I was late to fintech. right? It was like, oh yeah, there was a couple of neobanks already. The Stripe had been around for a long time, and I remember distinctly thinking like, wow, I'm late to fintech. Like, how will I learn everything I need? And like in hindsight, 2017 was extremely early to fintech, and maybe 2021 was a little late to fintech, but that was 4 years later. And I think it's similar with AI. Like, I think a lot of people look at AI right now and go like, oh man, like AI is so developed, like all the best ideas have been taken. But I'm guessing like we're like, very much in the first 2 years of like a 20-year plus super cycle. So yeah, I think that's like one kind of interesting learning from that.
Well, so before transitioning to what are you seeing in the ecosystem, want to ask one more question about the founding journey at Mercury, and specifically how you decided what the product launch should look like. Because this is something you've talked about, I think, principally in your investor capacity, right? So something that's minimally delightful. And I'm curious how you fit your own product launch at Mercury within that framework, because at least judging from the outside, like Mercury didn't seem like minimally delightful. It was fairly comprehensive.
If you could get to minimal first, then you can get to very afterwards, I guess. There was still, I guess, like, there's like kind of like two types. I mean, there's two types of ideas you can approach in the startup land. Idea number one is, there's a new trend, and you're building something completely new that's never existed before. Lots of AI ideas are like that, and crypto ideas or whatever. Another type of idea is a space has tons of incumbents. Hopefully they all kind of suck, and you think you can build something better. And those are like, both those ideas involve different approaches. So in the first kind of thing, it's a new thing, it's never existed before. You have to kind of create a new consumer or business behavior, and you're not like competing against a set of other companies. You're competing against the status quo of like what people want to do, and so that approach, I think, like lends itself a little bit more to let's just get it out there and see if there's any, where does it click, and then iterate with customers. For the second approach, where when Mercury came out, there was tons of other banks out there. So it wasn't the case that we could just say, hey, we've done like a kind of a crappy version of this, go use it. We had to build something that at least did everything that your bank could do, and then was 10x better. So the bar was like much higher for what we needed to build. And I'd been an entrepreneur for a long time, so I was like, if it didn't have a set of features, like Mercury was the first, as far as I know, the first kind of online neobank that had wires. But yeah, if you're running a startup, you need wires, right? Like that's how investors will send you money. So there was actually like I won't say the names since they tried. There was a business neobank before us, and literally if you send them a wire, it would get returned because their accounts could not accept wires. So like imagine the customer experience of like I give someone a bank account for their startup, and they like raise $1 million, and the investor sends the money and it gets bounced back. Like that would just be completely like it would be dead on arrival kind of thing, right? So there was, and the problem with banking is it's not one feature. It's actually like when you think about a bank account, it's a conglomeration of like quite a lot of different things. Like we needed like 5 payment types in, 5 payment types out. There's the depository piece, there's the user management. So it's a complicated product, and we were doing many things that no one had done up until that point. So it just took a long time, and I was very persistent and also insistent that we could not launch until we had this kind of minimum thing that I would use for my own startup. Otherwise, I thought like there's nothing to be learned from launching something that didn't fulfill that minimum. I mean, there were still things we didn't have. I mean. We didn't have virtual cards at the start. There was a whole set of things we didn't have, but the minimum was quite challenging. And the tricky part that took us a really long time was getting partner banks on board. So as you can imagine, like getting a bank to do something new is hard. I'm actually like, somewhat like the timing worked out that other people had done this, and like Bass had banking as a service had become a thing. Otherwise, I was actually prepared for it to take me 3 years to launch. So a year and a half was actually pretty fast. But yeah, we spent a lot of time with these bank partners. Like that was actually the thing that took longest. We ended up doing one whole partnership, a whole integration that then turned out to not fulfill what we needed, and then we had to do a second one, and you know how long these things take. But it did, because that took so long, it did mean that the end product we had, like our designer and our front-end engineers didn't have that much to do with the bank. So we ended up like really iterating and launching a much more polished product than I would have done if it wasn't for that. But that turned out to actually be a pretty positive part of our launch. You know, when people came to Mercury, they were kind of blown away about like how easy it was and how
and still is.
I mean, experience was
relative to
yeah. But that like made a really strong initial impression because you know, most people have such low expectations of banking that like if you can do something that's like, oh my God, like this is so easy and simple, and I can get a bank account within 10 minutes and get it going. That creates like a very long-lasting impression.
So now we fast forward like 7.5, 8 years, right?
Yeah.
And that little seed of an idea has grown into really an astonishing business. So from the letter that you released earlier this year, 650 million in annualized revenue, 3 consecutive years of GAAP profitability, 50% customer growth in 2025 on top of what was already a big business. Like that is just amazing progress over that period of time. How would you explain why Mercury has succeeded to the degree that it has?
It's always kind of tricky to explain Mercury in like a very reduced kind of way. Like most fintechs have like, you know, one thing that's really good about them. It's like, oh, it's free stock buying or something like that. Whereas for Mercury, it really is like the full experience. It's, yeah, I think at this point I can say this. I mean, I'm obviously somewhat biased, but like once you've used Mercury, like you just can't use another bank. It's like, I guess how many Mercury customers are out here? Right. Hopefully the rest of you don't have businesses because I have to Mercury. But yeah, it's just, yeah, it's all the little things that add up to delivering a great experience. Yeah. Just like, to me, it would be crazy to like walk to a bank branch to stand in line for 2 hours to sign up for a bank account. But that's like the norm for like incumbents. Or if you're trying to send a wire, like I remember with, you know, First Republic, which is, yeah, used to be my personal bank. It took like days to figure out how to do it. Like literally days. It'd be like, there's one thing you do to like set up, like make sure I can send a payment that high. You'd have to call them, etc. And then there was another thing afterwards to approve the payment. It was just so complicated. And like those things didn't need to be complicated. They were just like the way it's done because no one cared about the customer experience and no one like really tried to build an amazing product here. So yeah, there's a set of things like that. I think the other thing that, you know, we've pushed forward, especially in the last few years, is not just think about the bank account as this kind of dumb checking account that doesn't do anything. You know, for us, it's like, it's the place you collaborate around all your finances. So you have multiple users and they can upload their receipts and all that kind of stuff. There's, you know, all the other products you can get from Mercury. So the credit card, invoicing and bill pay. So yeah, we really want to build something where people are running their business on top of Mercury as like the core kind of financial side of it. But yeah, it really starts from like making it a delightful experience that people really enjoy, which, you know, before Mercury, no one would say that about their bank.
One thing I find refreshing about you as an entrepreneur from an investor perspective, and something that I have tried to communicate to people that I invest in, the regularity of your investor communications, particularly early, was incredibly gratifying, and I think created a degree of engagement that 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 I think benefited the company. Now, there is always the problem of people sharing information in ways that they're not supposed to, but knowing where you were in your journey, provided an opportunity to sort of check in and help as appropriate. I'd say more recently, you've taken that same approach to communicating to the industry where the business is from a profitability and metrics standpoint, which again is pretty rare, even for late-stage companies. I'm curious why you think that's important.
That's interesting, the through line through that. I would say like investor communication, I think is really important. And I think, I invest a lot. I've got 300 plus investments, and I actually think almost all of them do a bad job of it. So, I think it's really useful to help you think about things. I think like really good writing and really good thinking kind of go hand in hand. And I really I used to do it every 2 months. Now with board decks, I do every 3 months. But a lot of that is just like stepping back and saying like, what really matters to this business? What are the metrics that prove it is working or not working? And like, how do I think about that going forward? So I think that thinking process is important for me. And then it's like, I've always shared all of that to the company, and it's important to, for everyone to like actually understand like what really matters in the business. And then the investors are actually like the least important part of investor communication, funnily. When I think about like kind of communicating outward to, I guess, like the broader community, one part of it is like, I think transparency builds trust. With Mercury, like we're actually asking something like pretty difficult. Like we ask, someone said a funny way, like step 1, put all your money into Mercury. Like that's the product. Like it's actually kind of a hard ask, right? Like most fintechs, even definitely most software companies don't have like a step 1. Like step 1 is like let's slowly ramp up like engagement with this product, not like give me all your money. So trust is just so important, and like I think the only reason more people don't use Mercury is because we're still a startup and we're small, and compared to at least like the top 4 kind of big banks. So I think like talking about Mercury openly and how we think, and like talking about how profitable we are, and how we're growing, like shows like a really strong kind of foundation and transparency, and something that like is not just like trust me because I say trust me. It's like these are the metrics that prove that we're building a really long-term business. So that's a big part of it. I guess another part of it is like, I think it's a bit of a shame that companies don't go public earlier. Part of what you get with public companies is more kind of data and transparency and communication. So, even though we haven't gone public yet, we can, start thinking like that and start being like a little bit more open about it. And then I guess it's, it does create content, and people like hearing the real numbers and the real story, and that helps kind of spread Mercury in its own way.
Now transitioning to sort of ecosystem.
Yeah.
One of the amazing things about being the banking service, now charter application on file, so someday we'll be able to eliminate that footnote, to the startup ecosystem, and I'd say to some extent the creators and service providers that surround that ecosystem. You see what people are doing, and you shared an insight recently about the fact that more visible spend on Anthropic relative to OpenAI, which I thought was interesting at the time and certainly captured people's attention. I'm curious what you're seeing now from a spend perspective that might be interesting.
Yeah, I think that's actually accelerated. I don't know if other people see this, but I really feel like Anthropic is winning the mind share and has like really built like these Claude Code and Opus models that are not. They're doing an amazing job with coding, obviously, and a lot of the people that use Mercury are using them for coding, but also actually beyond coding. I think the enterprise, at least right now, and obviously the AI game is still early in changing, so maybe in a year it'll be completely different, but Anthropic is really winning that game, and we've seen that accelerate. I mean, the other interesting thing is like it's happening across the incumbents versus the AI disruptors is like playing out across like every vertical. Like, we were just looking at like developer tools, and like Cursor and Claude are like, being adopted faster than GitHub. Like before it used to be every startup has GitHub, but like every startup now has like Cursor and Claude and all these things before they even set up a GitHub account. And same thing with like CRMs, at least among like early companies, people are not going to Salesforce or HubSpot. There's like Apollo and a few other kind of AI-focused CRMs. In the design space, Figma is still winning, but I think, we're still early on kind of like amazing AI tools around design. I think the other thing we're seeing is, AI startups are really, I mean, I see this when I'm investing, but if you're not an AI startup, it's really hard to raise money right now. So AI startups are raising money, are twice as likely to raise money, and they're raising 3x more money on each round. This is like data from last year on Mercury. I think the converse is like, there's lots of, like you can have a pretty good business, but if it doesn't fit this AI narrative right now, like it's really hard to get investors. Like, I've invested in companies, and we see companies where, they've got to these crazy metrics that would be like an easy Series A just a few years ago. It's like 2 million in revenue, growing like 10% a month, and like just very hard for them to raise money. So it is like it's very much like, and within AI also, like you have to, I think just having like kind of a little AI is not enough. Like it's, people are really looking for this, like, how do you fit the narrative? And there's a funny, I don't know if people have seen the Silicon Valley HBO show. It's a hilarious show. I rewatched it recently. But there's this line in it where it's like, don't make revenue. You got to be pure play. And like you kind of see it with AI companies. Either you have to like be no revenue and just fit this like narrative, or if you're gonna have revenue, it has to be like 1 to 3 million in like 3 months. So, like the expectations are like kind of insane, and very few startups hit the expectations. Actually, a lot of it is like, a lot of the funding you see is like pre-revenue or like very early on, where like people are fitting this narrative. So it's very much like, we're in this like, I think AI is real, but we're also in like a very hype cycle kind of time in AI and AI funding.
Has anyone in the room not seen Silicon Valley?
I'm sure lots of people haven't.
Well, perhaps. I do feel like it's sort of core lore if you're going to be in the space.
I mean, the world got even crazier after that show was done.
I remember.
Two of that.
We've been rewatching sort of after episodes of The Pit, just because that can be kind of heavy.
Yeah. And
you need some leavening. So we'll watch a Pit, and we're rewatching Silicon Valley from the beginning. So yeah, great show. I'm curious. I mean, so obviously, I'm just sort of pausing for a second on the AI thing. I mean, Silicon Valley has, since I moved here. I mean, I moved here first when I was a little kid, 9, before like it was a thing, and then moved back in the mid-90s when, very much a thing, but not to the degree that it is. It didn't dominate the entire Bay Area or the city of San Francisco in the way that it does today. And you can mark the passage of time by looking at the billboards on 101. But I'm curious if you've thought about or have advice for people who are sort of building off narrative. Like, what do you do when everybody in the world is focused, in this world is focused on one thing, and you're like, but there are these other interesting problems. Like, how do you think people should be approaching fundraising or company building who who are spotting and pursuing opportunities that are not within the sort of AI narrative?
I think like number one, partly why we've been profitable for 3.5 years, and when I finished my previous company for the last 2 years, we were profitable. Is like, VCs are just annoying. No offense.
I'm also a lawyer, so
Yeah.
I think that makes me doubly annoying.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe they counteract each other. But ideally, you just don't need VCs, right? Like I think this idea that you have to raise money straight away, like it's getting cheaper and cheaper to build things. Just go build the thing. If you're really passionate about it, like raising money shouldn't be the reason you do or don't do something. And then, if you can build it and you grow and, at the end of the day, if you're building something valuable, you will get, like the world will recognize it, whether it's investors or whatever. So, you just want to be so good that you can't be ignored, basically, especially if you're like off script. I think the other thing I would say is like often, like money can be easy at a time, but everything else is actually hard. And if you're in a space where money is easy. So like, I'll give you an example. In 2021, when fintech money was easy, like, it was harder for us to hire people because there's only so many people who know about fintech. And if everyone is raising like $100 million, like it's hard to hire compliance people. And risk, like every category was harder to hire in. Number two, you get way more competitors. Like the amount of people that were like, oh, I'll just attach a business bank account to everything, which, most of them did not work out. But like, and this, I see this in AI a lot, right? Like last year, AI accounting was hot, right? Everyone was like, oh, accounting will be disrupted by AI. But guess what? There was like 10, 15 companies in this like one space. I invested in like 4 of them. But it was crazy. And like, it's just like hard to build a company when there's like, every single customer you go to is being pitched by like 3 other people, and they all have big sales team people, and like, they're all making all these promises. So, if you can manage to kind of, we started in 2017 when fintech wasn't that hot. So by the time 2021 came along, we had done a lot of progress and we had like the scale, and it worked out well for us. But like, it was many things about like the 2017 to 2020 period where no one cared was just better. Like we could just go build. There wasn't that much competition. We could go hire people. So I think there's like good things and bad things about being off script. And like there's, I think if you feel passionate about something and you really feel like this is a big thing that can be built here, like this is a great time to do it when no one's listening. You just have to have that like personal conviction though.
So we have 5 minutes. I could continue this conversation for hours, but I think it probably makes sense to give the audience an opportunity to ask a couple of questions. So anyone have a question, or do you want me to ask my next one?
Chat. I'm Ambrish. Wanted to touch a little bit. You said when you started the company was more business focused, of course, and now you've launched the personal banking. Can you walk us through like the thought process, how that evolution happened, and why you thought about getting into that?
So business is still our primary. We just we went to a general release of our Mercury Personal in December. The biggest driver was actually like people asking for it. So I think, whenever I have an idea for a new feature or a new product, it has some hit rate, but it's not 100% hit rate. But when enough people are asking for something and we launch it, like it almost has 100% hit rate. So just like listening to customers is powerful. Number two, we did it with a small team. Initially, we only had 6 people working on it. Now that it's got some traction, we have like 12 people working on it. But it really is the same product that we kind of actually took some features away from for personal. And there is like different kind of regulations and like kind of operational things you have to do for personal. But the core product is very much like the same. And the value proposition is very similar. It's like, hey, in your personal life, you want to collaborate. Like my wife has a personal account. My nanny has like a card I can issue to her. You want to be able to send wires and do payments easily. You want to be able to save money and have high interest savings and like distribute money automatically. So yeah, a lot of the core propositions are similar. I think the last thing I would say is like, it would be boring for me if we didn't always do new things and like explore new frontiers. So whether it's personal or like a bunch of these other products we're working on, that's just like kind of more fun for me. So we always have like some percentage of the company, like 20% or so, working on like net new things that like push things forward and keep things interesting, but like hopefully going to be, in 5 years' time, the reason we're still growing at 50% or more is going to be the things we launched today.
So I think we have room for one more, and I think that's Sasha.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm a Mercury customer. I love using your product, so thanks for building a good one. You mentioned that you're going to continue to be launching new products. Do you see yourself taking over Ramp one day, or do you think that there's like room in the market for both?
I think that, like, I don't know if I love the idea of like this kind of zero-sum thinking that there'll be like one or the other will crush each other. There's definitely like products we have that compete against them already. So we already have a corporate credit card. We already have a bill pay product. So yeah, there'll be places where, if you're a Mercury customer, you should be using our credit card and not Ramp's credit card. It's better. But it's also fully integrated and it's easy to use. So yeah, there'll be selling points there. I would say the biggest difference between us is like they're super enterprise focused. Like they have, Shopify and SpaceX using them, and that's like a bunch of features that are like very big companies need, and we're not working on that many of those features, especially when it comes to kind of procurement and like enterprise things. So yeah, we want to make it like super easy and simple for people that are like 200-person companies to use Mercury, and there's like a ton to be built there. But yeah, these spaces are also freaking huge, right? Like I think Rex, Ramp, Mercury, and a few other startups are like probably still less than like 3% of all corporate credit card spend. So, and even that envelope can grow as like we build better features and we have virtual cards and like employee spend goes on cards. So, yeah, all of these things are all very early and all very big markets. So I'm sure like Ramp will succeed and Mercury will succeed, and we'll both be doing a better job for customers.
Well, I think we'll end it there. Immad, thank you so much. This is super fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me.